Hello, this is part two in a two-part series on the meaning of the fixed star Regulus. At the end of the previous video, I explained that the meaning of Regulus comes from its placement in the Sidereal Zodiac and in the Tropical Zodiac. I believe that the fundamental meaning of a fixed star is not from its color, not from some physical characteristic, and it's not even from the constellation that it's in. It's from its placement in the zodiac. The zodiac is a structure in space. Space is an underlying reality behind our physical world. And astrology operates in this more spiritual dimension, fundamental reality that's behind the manifest world. So there's this structure in space called the Sidereal Zodiac. And Regulus is in Leo in the Sidereal Zodiac. It's a very, very bright star, one of the brightest stars in the sky, and the brightest star very close to the ecliptic plane. Regulus is a particularly important star because it is so bright and because it's close to the ecliptic plane. Very, very powerful. And where Regulus is in the Sidereal Zodiac, the exact degree placement, not only that it's in Leo, but as I showed at the end of the previous video, the Subtamsa, the Navamsa sign, the specific degree it's in, gives the full description of Regulus and the power that it brings to us here on Earth. And the tropical sign is also important. So to give you a sense of what you do with someone's chart, here's my chart, a fixed star wheel, and my Saturn when I was born, this is in the tropical zodiac, is 29 Leo 19. Regulus in the tropical zodiac is in the 29th degree Leo. Remember that Regulus is moving direct, and in the year 2011, Regulus would be in Virgo. But I'm old. And when I was born, Regulus was back at 29 Leo 08 in the tropical zodiac, 11-minute orb. So 29 Leo 08 is the position of Regulus, Saturn 29 Leo 19, an 11-minute orb. I have Saturn very tightly conjunct Regulus. What does it mean? It means Saturn is what's most important. Saturn is what you need to do. It's after all is said and done, what's really important. And what's really important is that I be true to Regulus, that I develop my ability to get my act together, that's what Leo is, and do it in a very responsible and deep way, because Regulus, the meaning of Regulus, it's in Subtamsa Leo, it's a double Leo. And Aries Navamsa, be transparent and clear with people. Don't hide things, don't prevaricate, and just be straightforward. All of those qualities of Regulus conjunct Saturn means that in the end, after all is said and done, this is critically important. And don't do the typical things that Leo abuses, which is to become pompous or to abuse. Take what do kings do? They take the money of the people and etc. So Saturn, this is a final, ultimate, you might say, lesson, important thing in life. Okay, now let me show you. Let me say one more thing. If Regulus is conjunct the sun or moon or ascendant, then Regulus plays a more prominent, conspicuous part in your life. With Saturn, it's a deeper, meaningful thing that's going on. So there are people who have Regulus much more prominent than I do. Those are people with Sun, Moon, or Ascendant conjunct Regulus with a very small orb, or even Mercury, Venus, and so on. Now, let me show you a listing. So this is the fixed stars wheel. If I go to listing, excuse me, fixed stars, and I select number 2, I will get this listing that shows planets conjunct fixed stars shows the orb and direct distance. I want to show you this direct distance thing. It's very interesting. So I'll go down here to Saturn, to Regulus. Here it is. And there's that 11-minute orb I just showed you in the bi-wheel. 11-minute orb confirmed here. Now the direct distance is 1 degree 17 minutes. What does that mean? It means that if you take the distance from where Saturn actually is in the sky, like if you point to Saturn in the sky and you point to Regulus in the sky, the distance between them is 1 degree 17 minutes. The 11-minute orb that we use in astrology is not the actual distance between the planets. It's their distance in zodiac longitude. To give you a better idea of this, and let me reiterate here that I'm on the wrong thing here. Saturn, what am I going for? Saturn Regulus, this one, 011 here. This 1 degree 17 minutes is extraordinary. That they're physically, like you physically look at it, just 1 degree apart. It's extremely rare for any two objects to be within 1 degree. And they'll be within 1 degree in zodiac longitude, but not the actual direct distance. Even if you have Venus conjunct Jupiter in your chart, they may not be within a degree. They may or may not be. But when they get that close, it's rather extraordinary. And this happens with Regulus. With any planet conjunct Regulus, this can happen because Regulus is on the ecliptic plane. In fact, this is peculiar in my chart. I'm going to show you this. In my chart, just to show you that this can happen, Regulus is closer to the ecliptic plane than Saturn is. Let me show you this. Because we think of the planets as being on the ecliptic plane. In this particular case, Regulus is actually closer. Because when you look at the latitude of my Saturn, here's a chart wheel with a lot of details, and it's showing me the latitude. Saturn's latitude is 1 north 44. Saturn is almost 2 degrees above the ecliptic plane. Regulus is only a half a degree from the ecliptic plane. So if this is the ecliptic plane, I'm moving my hand sideways here, and Saturn, Regulus is a little bit above it, and then Saturn is higher. Saturn is farther from the ecliptic plane than Regulus. And that 1 degree, whatever it was, a little over 1 degree difference is because Saturn is so much higher, so much farther from the ecliptic plane than Regulus. So this just emphasizes, Regulus is like with the planets. It's right in there with them. Most of the stars are all over the sky. They're nowhere near where the planets actually are. And I believe this is one of the reasons why Regulus is so dramatically important. And when you have a planet conjunct Regulus, here's the important point. When you have a planet conjunct Regulus, like I do, they're actually going to be physically close to each other. Whereas if you have a planet conjunct Sirius is a huge star, but it's way off the ecliptic plane, or many are Canopus and so on. They're not actually near each other. Now, does that make a difference? I think it does. I think it makes Regulus especially powerful and important. And especially important for anybody that has something conjunct Regulus to have integrity, to get their act together, to be noble, to be honest, to develop their potential, to not become slaves or robots to some system. Leo is about freeing your individuality to be as creative, as unique, and special and different as you are. Because everybody is special and unique. That's the message of Leo, and that's the message of Regulus. Regulus is like a messenger of Leo, and specifically the exact placement that it has. Leo sign, and in the Sidereal Zodiac, Leo Septamsa, so the depth of it, and so on. Aries Navamsa, that I talked about that at the end of the previous video. Okay, so I wanted to just share a little bit more about Regulus, why it's so important, because it's on the ecliptic plane, and how that you see that in charts. Okay, so this describes that Regulus's latitude is 0 north 28. If you bring up the star catalog in the Sirius software, it shows you the positions of the planets. And here is Regulus in the year 2000 is a little bit later, almost reaching Virgo, 29 Leo 50. And there's the latitude. Here I've shown it to a second. It's 0 north 28, rounded off to the nearest minute. So you can see this in various ways to confirm it. That Regulus's latitude is 0 north 28. Okay. Now, what's interesting, another interesting thing about my Saturn conjunct Regulus, the first star that I go into great detail with in an exploration of meanings of fixed stars is Regulus. The one that is prominent, I also have the Pleiades prominent, there's two. One of the most conspicuous ones in my charts becomes a focus of my attention. Life is so intricate and complex. You see your own chart involved in things you do. Anyway, it's kind of interesting that what's in our chart shows up in so many ways. Regulus is conspicuous in my chart, and conspicuous as the first star that gives me clues as to how fixed stars work. Okay. Now, I've said all this already. You could stop the video and read this if you want to, but it's just repeating what I've emphasized. Let me emphasize this first sentence. I think it's interesting. Sidereal means literally star, and we often say the Sidereal Zodiac is star-based. Is the Sidereal Zodiac star-based? Is it based on the constellations? My answer is no, it's not. It's based on one star, you could call it a star, the galactic center. The galactic center in relationship to the tropical zodiac is what creates the Sidereal Zodiac. So it's actually a relationship of the galactic center to the tropical zodiac that creates the Sidereal Zodiac. That's a subtle point of explanation, but it's important to emphasize because we're so conditioned, we're so accustomed to thinking sidereal stars, and this emphasis on the stars, the physical things. And VA turns this on its head a little bit. It's saying, the emphasis on the physical nature is not as important as the space behind the physical nature. Now, it may also be true that constellations have their own meaning, and those physical congregations of stars as they appear to be. I'm not saying they're not important. They could be important. What I am saying is that what's getting neglected in all this, and is clearly extremely important from my point of view, is the power of the Sidereal Zodiac and the tropical zodiac in defining the qualities of the stars. And I described at the end of the previous video the meaning of Regulus from its placement in the Sidereal Zodiac. Okay, I think I've said that enough times. Let's move forward. Now, this ingress of Regulus into Virgo in 2011, what does it mean? It means it marks the end of pure leonine qualities of Regulus. Regulus was in Sidereal Leo and Tropical Leo, and for the past 2,000 years, Regulus has thrived on a pure Leo expression. Now that pure Leo expression is modified. It's no longer pure Leo. It's blended in with Virgo. We also have the sub-sign effects, the Subtamsa and Navamsa signs and so on. So they're also at work. But the basic tone now has shifted with Leo moving into tropical Virgo. And so what we've had in recent years, for example, in our lives or the lives of our parents or grandparents, the fantastic images of celebrities, the Elvis Presleys, the Marilyn Monroes, this celebrity status, the great heroes, the great athletes, the drama, and also in the Middle Ages in Europe, the kings, the queens, the nobility, this heroism, pure Leo, and Regulus. That fixed star Regulus becomes such a powerful, pinpointed expression of Leo that every time someone is born or there's a transit of a planet touching that Regulus, that particular quality of Leo keeps coming out frequently. Regulus doesn't define all of Leo, but it does define one hit. It's like a light on a Christmas tree. One bright point that keeps pow, 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 and expressing a certain quality of Leo, this specific degree placement of Regulus. So now with Regulus being mixed up with tropical Virgo, there's going to be less drama, less wondrous celebrity status over the next 2,000 years. And right now, children who are up to 9 or 10 years old, they are born with Regulus in Virgo. The rest of us are born with Regulus in Leo. We still bring the old Leo form, the existing Leo form. So when Regulus ingresses into Virgo, it's not the end of Regulus and Leo because we're still alive. You and I are still here. And we were born with Regulus and Leo. And we still carry that message. And we still have that as our script in this life, as our set of instructions, as our map, as our wiring diagram. So Regulus is in Virgo now, but it's not for me. And you're probably over 10 years old. If you're watching this when I make it, people who watch this 30 and 40 years from now, more and more of them will be born with Regulus in Virgo. And as time goes on over the next 50 to 100 years, as the majority of people and the people in power are born with Regulus in Virgo, then the transition becomes complete. And that's why there's this transition time. I call it 70 years. Actually, I think of 72 years, because that's the time it takes for a star to move 1 degree in the tropical zodiac. By the time Regulus moves to 1 degree Virgo, which will take about 72 years, 71 to 72 years, now the people who were born with Regulus and Leo are now 72 years old. They're moving out of power. They're fading out rapidly. Most of them are already no longer the movers and the shakers. By the time we get to 100 years, it clearly has, Regulus in Virgo has taken over. So we are in a transition time. From the moment Regulus entered Virgo, the transition begins. The new wave begins. So we're going to see that over the next 2,000 years, more emphasis on who is the hero, who is the celebrity. It's the person who brought more purity, who removed more confusion from life, who brought a perfection into our lives, who cleaned things up. And we've seen this start to happen already during this transition, during this pandemic. Who is the new hero? Who are we now celebrating? We're celebrating the medical staff, the essential workers. And we're repeating this over and over again. People are clapping as the nurses and the doctors come home. And the people who work in the grocery stores and who deliver things. We are giving more honor, respect. They are becoming the new nobility. They are the new saviors. So it seems less exciting that some celebrity has some flashy quality. Now, this might seem like just a short-term trend. We're in a pandemic time. As I make this video, it's been going on for 9 or 10 months. It'll end. But when it ends, this emphasis on the service, the implementing practical things to make our lives more perfect is going to continue. Now, this is not all good. Every change has its positive and negative potentials. So, but this change is not temporary. It's not just because of this pandemic. It's a little symptom of what's to come. It's part of a massive shift in awareness in what we perceive as heroism. And like I said, not everything will be necessarily better. I'm kind of excited about it, I must admit, this change in attention. But people over the next 2,000 years are going to have like a sense of responsibility and pressure to make life better. So, and you don't have the glamour and glitz that you did over the last 2,000 years. There's something fun about that pure Leo period for 2,000 years. So anyway, we are changing. Now here's another example, a more global example of thinking about the star Regulus. Donald Trump, president of the USA, as I make this in December 2020, he will be no longer president starting next month, and Joe Biden will be president for 4 years. He was born with Regulus conjunct the ascendant. And so if we look at his chart, Donald Trump, we see Regulus, where's Leo here, on the ascendant. That's what I just said. His ascendant 29 Leo 46, Regulus 29 Leo 06. Regulus is conjunct the ascendant with a 40-minute orb. Now possibly Donald Trump could have been born 1 or 2 minutes before the birth time. If we go to the time adjust, and we go back 2 minutes earlier, then he has 29 Leo 23 and the orb is smaller. We go back another minute, so we go back a total of 3 minutes earlier. We see the ascendant now is 29 Leo 10, basically exactly conjunct Regulus if he was born about 3 minutes earlier. It's possible he was born 1 or 2 minutes earlier. I suspect that Donald Trump was born slightly earlier than 10 hours and exactly 53 minutes. I mean, they only give the birth time rounded off to a minute. So he was born closer to 10:52, and possibly the time is off by a minute or two as well. But in any case, that Regulus ascendant is so obvious. And of course, like all adults, he is born with Regulus and Leo on his ascendant. His mission, one of his important missions in this life, is to be a kind of a king, a deep, sincere king. Subtomsa's sign is Leo, transparent and straightforward with the people. Is he doing that? Well, he's a very controversial person, but certainly a great number of people think, no way. It's just the opposite, flamboyant and not keeping to the sincerity, because we have to look at the whole chart. I've done interpretations of Donald Trump's chart, his 8 vibration, 11 vibration, extremely Jupiterian. And you could say that during this last 9 years, as we've begun the change of Regulus into Virgo, that he is holding on to a global perception of Regulus in pure Leo. It's fine for yourself and for your personal mission, but just realize the world is moving to Virgo. The world is moving to the hero. It really is the nurse. We've had that image in it's for the last 2,000 years. There's Virgo doing its thing, but that idea of the nurse, and also the analyst, all these people figuring out the technical details and getting things right. That's the way of the future, and we need to, because our planet is under threat from pollution and so many problems. So we'll hope that the next generation won't be so enamored by celebrities and heroes, and will just get to work and clean things up, and do it with a broad enough vision to do it properly. So anyway, there is this change. It's interesting to see how Donald Trump is an instrument of the Regulus in Leo, an expression of that. Okay, so I've already talked about this because Regulus is so bright, so close to the ecliptic plane. It is especially strong anchor and strong generator of the qualities of the specific placement of Regulus. Um, okay, so that's it, my friends. The conclusions. Number one, Regulus entering Virgo is very important. Very, very important. Number two, understanding fixed stars in terms of the details of their sidereal position and their tropical zodiac position, I think, is almost like a revelation for understanding fixed stars. We really understand what the fixed stars are doing simply by analyzing exactly where that fixed star is. Now, from here, it's going to be interesting to analyze other fixed stars. You know, you know them. You can go through the list of them and think and look at their exact sidereal position. Now, this depends. Point number three leads into point number three. Their exact sidereal positions will depend on the ionomtia used. So I've speculated on a lot of things here. I've speculated about what the correct ionomtia is. That's highly controversial, and the one I use is by far not the most popular, rather unpopular one. The galactic centers at 0 Sagittarius. I've speculated about what gives each degree its meaning, these vibrational signs. So there's a lot of new, you might say, speculative ideas being presented here, but this is how we often make progress as we explore different possibilities. We explore different ways of looking at things, different paradigms. And what I am presenting here is not haphazard or sort of random, peculiar ideas. It's a whole, consistent, integrated model of astrology where so many things are all knitted together into one clear, singular framework. So when I emphasize the importance of the specific zodiac degree position, this is completely consistent with the fundamentals of vibrational astrology, the emphasis on structures in space, the multi-layered vibrations, that this is the fundamental nature of astrology. It's interesting because vibrational astrology is often seen as a number-oriented, kind of scientific, nerdy kind of thing, and yet what we're emphasizing is that spiritual nature, the emphasis on space and not so much the physical qualities as defining the way that astrology works, and that the fixed stars get their meaning from their placement in space more than from their physical qualities. And again, I've mentioned it before, the physical qualities, the constellations, I am not proposing that they have no importance whatsoever. What I am proposing is that there is something else that is very important, that gets overlooked, and does a very good job at explaining what's happening and helps improve our interpretations tremendously. So yeah, we can start looking at other fixed stars and understanding their meaning by the zodiac sign that they are in, and looking at the Septamsa, Navamsa, the 30th harmonic and the 13th vibration, all of those things describing that star. So we can apply this to other things and see how it works and how it works in people's charts. I've given you some idea of how to think about Regulus. And again, Regulus is especially important because it's so bright and on the ecliptic plane, and it's changed from Leo to Virgo, tropical sign, huge. And I think it's having a very important effect throughout the planet. Well, that's it, my friends. I've gone a half hour on part 2. So I'm glad I broke this into 2 sections. Thank you very much for listening. God bless. Namaste.